The money trap I defined last week a little different than I normally do. The money trap is simply this: keeping up with the Joneses. Anybody ever heard that? Now, it just so happens, Janet's sister, her last name is Jones. Her father-in-law was one of the owners of Channel 4. So when I say keeping up with the Joneses, I'm not talking about hypothesis. I'm talking about our relatives. So I have no intent of trying to keep up with the Joneses, the Smiths, or anyone else. Life is not a competition, nor is Christianity. Life is not a competition on who we can outdo, outspend, or outwow. You get it? We are not in competition. One of the greatest tragedies in ministry is ministers continually judge their success by somebody else's success. I don't look anything like Kenneth Copeland. Don't you say amen? I don't look anything like Jerry Savelle, Jesse Duplantis, or any of your other non-favorites, because I'm your favorite. I didn't even get an amen. I said, because I'm your favorite. Y'all are just not nice tonight. So life is not a competition, but when we judge our lives, our possessions, our position by everybody else, why are we doing that? We are uniquely created in the image of God. There's no one like you or anyone like me on the whole planet. So why are we judging ourselves in some sort of man-made human competition with somebody else? Gosh, how defeating is that? How frustrating. There's no way I can be anybody but me. And I don't see a line of people lining up to be like me. But I'm waiting. No line, still no line. So we're not in a competition. And the problem is we are now in a generation of fake social status. Well, we all pretend we're all happily married. We all pretend we're all very rich. We all pretend that everything in our life is wonderful. And we post it all on Facebook. And we're convinced of our own falsehoods. How terribly frustrating is that when you lay down at night and put your head on the pillow and you realize you're not living reality. You're not even facing reality. You cannot change, and God will not change what you will not acknowledge. How many of you will acknowledge that you were a sinner for a long time? And God didn't change that until you accepted Jesus. He made it possible, but you had to acknowledge you were going to hell. You had to acknowledge you needed Jesus. So you cannot change what you don't acknowledge. So let's stop the competition. I'm going to say it again. I'm not in competition with any other preacher. We are not in competition with any other ministry. We are who we are, and we want to be the best we can be in Christ and be truthful and honest and faithful to the heavenly vision personally and collectively. Man, that's so liberating. What I pray is that God will show you your value, His plan, and give you the understanding on how to implement the plan by literally changing some lifestyle patterns. Perhaps your words, perhaps how you sow or how you plant or whether you do or not. That God will show you things that will rattle your cage, and you won't judge your success or your obedience by somebody else's disobedience. I was in Bible school in 1973, and the rule in the handbook was young men are to wear some sort of slacks, khakis, or Dockers, something like that, not blue jeans. Well, I get to school, and a great portion of the school, due to the administrative change, a lot of the guys, including me, wore blue jeans. Nobody ever said anything. A lot of us had haircuts that didn't meet the written code. Nobody said anything. And one day, I'm standing in the auditorium, getting ready for the general session, and the Lord said, "You're in rebellion." I'm sure He was talking to the person beside me, Phil, or perhaps Dan, the Messianic Jewish friend of mine. I'm sure He wasn't talking to me. I think I just overheard Him speaking to them. And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" He said, "You're not following the guidelines, the rules." I said, I literally said this to the Lord. I said, "But Lord, look at Bill. Bill's got hair way down on his shoulders here. I mean, it wasn't on his collar, it was down here. And he had on blue jeans, and they were much more faded than mine. And I graciously pointed out that to the Lord. I don't know if he had noticed that. And you know what he said to me? Bill's not your standard. See what I did? I fell into that pattern. Now, let me just help you. I was a baby Christian. This was before I even had my first Christian birthday. Or maybe I had my Christian birthday and I was a 13-month-old. So I have a right to wet my pants and poop my pants. I'm just a baby. In other words, I was a stinker and didn't even know it. I was judging my obedience by his greater disobedience. And the Lord was gracious enough to point it out to me. Why? Why did he do that? Because he just likes getting on my case? No, if he liked that, he'd be on me all the time. But he did it because he wanted me to grow. And he wanted to know if I would respond to his word and lay aside the weights and sins, the little subtle things, you know. Because what we do is we compare ourselves among ourselves. And you know what? When you measure anything with a broken ruler, no matter what you measure is wrong. And when you look at anybody else, you're measuring by a natural broken ruler. Listen to this passage, very familiar, 3 John. There's only one chapter, so it's verse number 2. Beloved, raise your hand if he's talking to you. I pray, I desire, King James says, I wish, that you may prosper in all things. According to this verse, beloved, I pray that you what? Prosper in what? In health? Is that all? Finances? Material things? So you can provide for you and your family and have some left over. Well, I wouldn't say leftover, so you can give and honor God with your tithe and then with your offering. And so you can provide for your family, and your family can be comfortable and still be able to give under every good work. Would you think that would be okay? I pray that you may prosper in all things and be in health. This is the New King James. I'm not sure what they probably got the King James up there. I like the new one. I'm an iPad kind of preacher, you know what I'm saying? iPhone guy. And may prosper in all things and be what? In health. How many of you believe if you didn't have to take any prescriptions, you didn't have to see any doctors, and you didn't spend any money on any kind of medical related items, you would be more prosperous than you are right now? I wish, desire, I pray that you would prosper and be in health. Anybody interested? What's the criteria for this to come to pass? Even as your soul prospers. Your soul. The soul is the seat of the mind, the will, the intellect, and the emotions. So this tells me that my ability to increase even more and more, as we shared last week from 1 Thessalonians. 1 Thessalonians, I think I thought I put it at. That's hard to say, Thessalonians. Them crazy Thessalonians. Have you ever considered a Christian education for your child? Then you should check out Arkansas Christian Academy, Saline County's fully accredited premier Christian school at an affordable family rate. Students have opportunities to excel in academics, athletics, fine arts, and technology. And through our dual enrollment program, high school students can even achieve an associate's degree prior to graduation. Visit us at arkansaschristianacademy.org. I wish, desire, and pray that you may prosper in all things. Paul said to the church in Thessalonica, he said, I pray that God would sanctify you, set you apart for the master's use, spirit, soul, and body. In the physical, the mental, and the spiritual. Come on, somebody. That's good preaching right there. Good quoting scripture anyway. That you may prosper in all things and be in health just as your soul prospers. So my health may be as prosperous, and my material things, my physical things, may be equal to my soul prosperity, my soul transformation. So if I want God to entrust me with more, flow more through me, I need to get my mind right. Look at the person beside you and just look at them like that. Point that finger just like that. Say it with a little gusto and say, you need to get your mind right. Listen, we're talking about finances. financial freedom, financial truth and principle. We cannot borrow or spend our way into prosperity. I hope they're not watching. But I know a couple, they're not even together anymore. They would show up at big church events long before this church, fur coats, full length, real deal. Wasn't no fake fox. Wasn't a faux fur. Windshield wipers on their headlights. Rolling in the river. But it was fake. It was fake. What were they doing? They were trying to convince everybody, I guess, that they had something they didn't have. What's the Dave Ramsey saying? We spend money we don't have to impress people we don't know. So, we can't borrow or spend our way into prosperity. You see people in really nice cars and really nice houses, and you go, man, they must be rich. No, a lot of folks like that just in debt. Their debt is equal to your debt. You know, a lender typically in the old days, I don't know what it is these days, but the ratio was your mortgage, et cetera, was only not to exceed 28% of your income. You know, that's been changed. Remember when you used to buy a car? I saw my mother's friend, who was the case worker for DCFS in Jonesboro when I was almost a teenager, maybe a 13-year-old. 1960. I was 12. She bought a 1964, that was the year I turned 13. Bought a 1964 powder blue, tuck and roll, white interior, white convertible Chevrolet Impala. My mother and dad, they thought she had lost her mind. $3,400. That car is probably worth right now in the same condition it was in, probably worth $75,000 or $100,000. We're financing cars for 7 years, 8 years, and 9 years. The worst words that will ever come out of your mouth, and this is an indication of where you are on the scale of financial freedom. The worst thing, and we have car salesmen here, insurance salesmen here, business people in here, the worst thing that will ever come out of your own mouth is, how much is my payment? That is the money trap. You know what the largest spending categories, now this is based on 2017 information from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. You know what the top three, 62% of all expenditures of Americans, you know what they're on? The house, transportation, and food. How many of you know everybody drives a used car? $62%. Housing, transportation, and food. That only leaves 38% for tithing, which is 10%, and offerings, which is whatever percent. And we haven't even talked about retirement, our investment, our savings, our kids' education. Do you see why we're in debt? They said this just a few days ago on the news, that with record unemployment, historically low unemployment, historically low minority unemployment, historically record highs in the stock market, Americans are deeper in debt today than they've ever been. You know what we're doing? Living the mirage. We're trying to keep up with everybody else because we think they're rich and they're just in debt, and we're trying to keep up with them, so we go deeper in debt. And how many of you know it's exhausting to work and work and work and work to continue to struggle financially? It's frustrating to go to church over and over and over and over again and continue to struggle spiritually. So we've got to get off this flywheel, this hamster wheel, and get into the things of God and quit pretending to be something we aren't. Have a friend that you know that told me that he was raised in a full gospel church, and he was a part of this ministry for a long time, And I said, well, why did you make your way here? Because we're not the stereotypical Pentecostal or charismatic church. And he said, because I got tired of going to church and seeing people have church and spiritual experiences and doing all the Christian calisthenics at church, and yet when I saw them during the week, it didn't seem that it was real except for the brief period on Sunday. And he said, I was looking for something that was real and relevant. I had a guy in my office today, and he said, I was raised Pentecostal. And I said, how'd you make your way here? I mean, it's a story. And he said, well, I got tired of going to church and seeing people hooping and hollering and having church. But what I was looking for is, can't that transfer from a church event, a church experience, to a lifestyle? Now, I'm not making fun of full gospel people, or I'd be making fun of most of you, wouldn't I? And me. But there's a difference between the full gospel and the fool's gospel. If this stuff does not work in these shoes when we walk in and out of this place, if we can't apply Christianity to everyday living, then why don't we all just skip church and just wait till Jesus comes and go to heaven? This stuff is supposed to work. And financially, there are so many scriptures about finances. And yet, if you talk about money, people get quiet. People get nervous. You talk about tithing, they get under conviction. You can talk about tithing all you want. I'm not under conviction. You know why? Because I'm not guilty. You talk about giving offerings. I don't feel any condemnation. You know why? Because we give tithes and offerings. It's a lifestyle. We're not trying to buy something. We just are walking in practical wisdom, and with all our getting, God is continuing to give us understanding. We're not the biggest church in the world. We're not the biggest church in town. We're 29 years old, and we're completely debt-free. The ranch, completely debt-free. You know what? We could not have 25 or 30 foster children if we were paying mortgages on the property and mortgages on the buildings, and if I took a salary. We couldn't stay open. Why don't I take a salary? Because I don't need it. I don't need it. Why isn't my salary here twice what it is? Because I don't need it. You know why? Because my God's bigger than a paycheck. And by being faithful in little, God will entrust you with much. Isn't that cool? Now, there's nothing wrong getting a salary because my whole staff gets a salary. I get one. But I can tell you, Billy and Rachel and the rest of the staff, wouldn't it be great if they made more? Well, of course. But see, if they're living based on a paycheck from the church or from the ministry, isn't that limited? Would you want a fixed income? You want to live on a fixed income or an income that's not fixed, it's unlimited, where you're living in the things of God? What do you want? Are you just living off of what you can make 40 hours or 50 hours or 60 hours or 70 hours? That's still limited. How do you break the back of that? Honoring God. Something supernatural happens. We put on staff a guy about 15, 18 years ago. He was making somewhere, he said, 60 to 65 and sometimes as much as $80,000 a year. He came on staff here for probably less than half that. And he sat in my office more than one time and said, I'm living better now on less than half of what I was making, and we're living better now. I said, what's the secret? He said, I've learned how to honor God and manage some of my finances. What a novel thought. Maybe I should have invited him to preach because y'all mighty quiet. All right, so let's fast forward a little bit. So to save the most money, and this is where we're going to talk a minute, you need to take bigger bites out of the largest pieces of your spending, which is what? Housing, transportation, and food. My wife and I, to this day, share our meals. I said that 25 years ago, made 10 to 15 guys in the church mad. Well, I realize we're not big people, and we like it that way, and we'd like to keep it that way. She goes on a diet, I gain weight, because we share our meal. But there's things you can do. Our children were adults with children before they realized as adults they didn't have to share a Happy Meal with their grown adult sisters. We were at Geyer Springs and a hamburger patty fell off the table at McAdee's and landed on the floor. You know what I did? I picked it up, put it back on the bun. My wife nearly had a heart attack. So I had to go buy another 59-cent hamburger. Oh, man. I couldn't sleep for 3 days. What Janet doesn't know is I ate that later for a snack. Not really. But how many of you know, that's just seasoning. You drop something out in the yard, you pick it up and eat it. Didn't it grow out of the yard and out of the garden?
Hi, I'm Perry Black right here at Second Chance Youth Ranch TV, coming on Victory Television Network at 11 p.m. on Thursday nights beginning November 14th. And we're going to talk about fostering children, adoption, and how you can get involved at Second Chance Youth Ranch right here in Central Arkansas. I look forward to connecting with you Thursday nights, VTN, at 11 p.m. God bless you.
Listen to this statement. This is a paraphrase. Cash is king, not credit, cash. If you don't believe this, the king will have all of your cash. I'm going to post that because that's good. Oh, I said that. Cash is king. If you don't believe that, the king will have all your cash. The golden rule, the one, the golden rule, the one who has the gold rules. This whole political and social environment that we're in is about shifting money from one industry, which is oil, to a new industry, which is green, and it's under the guise and the pretense of saving the planet. And so you get rid of evil oil and those rich evil oil men so you can funnel money to your donors who have solar panels and other interests. You think it's really about saving the planet? You don't think God's big enough to save this planet? I think He is. We are supposed to be good stewards of everything. But they said on the drive-in tonight that today it was 93. How many of you know that's hot for this time of year? But it's not the record. The record was back in the 1950s. Isn't that something? That's why it's no longer global warming. It's climate change. It's climate change. Yeah, the climate change. It was hotter today. It's cooler now. And when I get up in the morning, it's going to be different than it is today. You know why? Because it's Arkansas. But the rule is if you tell a lie often enough, people begin to believe it. And we're being bombarded with all sort of media sources, social media sources, with all kinds of voices. That's why as believers we must know how to discern the voice of the Lord that lines up with the Word of God. So important. Financial ruin is a process of spending more than we make over a long period of time. Financial success is spending less over the same period of time and learning how to make it grow. Let me just give you a simple example. Some time ago, I bought some Walmart stock, $48. I didn't find out what it is today, but 2 days ago it was $119.50 a share. Would you like to have some $48 Walmart stock? Probably never going to see that again. It would have to split 3 for 1 to even get close now. 4 reasons for debt. Here it is. Number 1, lack of discipline. You know what the word disciple comes from? The root word? The same root word that we get the word disciple. Discipline. I like calling it spiritual discipline. Say this with me. No. Say it with me. No. One more time. No. Honey, would you like that dress? That's not a good example. Let's try this one. Honey, can I buy this truck? No. Oh, y'all down. Y'all not right. Y'all not right at all. Just say no. You've got to be able to say no to impulse. I came from a retail background. If you have not noticed, why do you think there's candy bars, candy, chewing gum, and magazines and trash stuff up at the counter? because you know you're going to stand in line unless you work for yourself. I actually checked myself at Walmart, and I'm still waiting on my employment W-2 form so I can file my taxes. Why do you think all that's up at the front? Because you're going to be there a moment, and oh, by the way, oh, there's that gum. Oh, there's those mints. Oh, there's that magazine. She did what? Look at that right there. A farmer in Nebraska killed a 35-pound grasshopper. And people are storming the other place in Arizona or wherever it is because there's aliens locked up in that place. Look here. Look, there's aliens. They got pictures. Those are called selfies. I can name the politicians. I can actually tell you who they are. Okay, thank you very much. Self-discipline. Everybody say self-discipline. Being spirit-led is a better way of putting it. It is the ability to consistently make right decisions based upon the facts. Facts, not our feelings, not our emotions, not our competitiveness with other people so they'll think we're also prospering and successful. Number 2, a lack of contentment. Why are we in financial indebtedness? Why are we in financial bondage? Lack of discipline, lack of contentment. Paul said, I have learned to be content. That means we can learn how to be content. So I looked the word up, content, so I want to make sure that I'm learning what it is. Strong enough or possessing enough to need no aid or support. I've learned to be content. I'm resting. I'm resting in God. It means to be independent. Oh, this is good. Independent of external circumstances. Paul said, I've learned to be content in whatever state I'm in from prison. Contented with one's lot, with one's means. I don't have to have more to be happy. Money can't buy me love. Money does not satisfy. It can make you comfortable in your misery, but it will not make you happy. Lack of contentment. The more I have, the more I want. John Wesley said it's amazing. The more we have, the more we want. Search for security. Why are we in debt? We're searching for security. Oh man, if I could, women truly need that sense of security. Their home, their place where they can hang their pictures and paint their walls and put their kids, a place they can call their own. I get that, but you will never find security in a physical possession. It is not what you possess that gives us security. It's who possesses us. We are His. We are bought and paid for in full. We are God's grand possession.
Hi, I'm Perry Black right here at Destined to Win TV, and I want to say thank you for watching our program. You know, we'd love to connect with you, and one way you can do that is join us right here at Family Church Bryant on Sunday morning or on Wednesday night. As you well know, we teach straight from the Word of God with a touch of humor to make the medicine go down. You know, we believe here at Family Church, a church alive is worth the drive. And if you're not connected with a local church, then why don't you visit us? Information right here on the screen. Until then, I'll see you right here at Destined to Win TV. God bless.